Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Brun Krak at Football No Filter, episode 22. I'm with maybe some of you guys might recognize this guy's face.
Oof, it's been a while.
Lito.
It's been a
Lito,
while. What's up, man?
you've been away for a while.
Yeah, man. It's tough, man. It's tough. We're living some tough times. Always a little bit of time to watch some soccer, but it's tough to catch up with some friends, man.
I hear you, man. Well, you're filling in for Georgie today. Georgie couldn't make it. Steph's going to be joining us in a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
I understand that everything is all crazy and everything with COVID-19. I know you're looking to try to arrest COVID-19 and put it away, but it is tough. I get it. All right. So what we're gonna do today, Litos, as we always do, is we're gonna cover the Portuguese league. I'm gonna run the results from last weekend. Some surprising results, to be honest. It kicked off with round 7, Bullinins 0, Riwav 0. Tondela gets a huge win to Santa Clara 2-0. Famalicão comes back and beats Marítimo 2-1. I thought this was the surprise result of the week. Vitória de Guimarães 0, Sporting 4. That was huge.
Huge.
Nacional 2, Gil Vicente 1. Farense gets their first 3 points. Farense 3, Boa Vista 1. You're probably not surprised that Boa Vista dropped after beating Benfica, correct?
No, I'm not. But I expected I expected a little bit more of Boa Vista throughout the season. To be honest with you, I thought they made some key additions to their team, and right now they're actually a team that I thought would have been doing a little bit better. They could still do good, but I thought they would have been doing a little bit better by now, and a little bit of surprise.
All right. We'll talk about them in a second. Porto 3, Portimonense 1. Benfica 2, Braga 3. And then Moreirense and Paços Ferreira did not play due to COVID-19. That has been delayed or postponed for Tuesday, December 1st. So I'm going to go quickly down the table because we always like to give attention to other clubs other than the big three. Sporting now leads with 19 points. Braga, Benfica with 15. Porto with 13. Rio Ave, Guimarães, and Nacional, and Santa Clara with 10. Famalicão 9. Paços Ferreira, Moreirense, Tondela 8. Bolonense and Marítimo 7. Boa Vista has 6 points. Farense and Gil Vicente 5. And Portimonense down at the bottom with 4 points. Since you're one of our guests and you haven't really had an opportunity to really talk about the league, is there a team that is disappointing to you? And is there a team outside the big three, a team that's disappointing to you and a team that has surprised you so far?
A team that's been disappointing, looking at the tabella, 7 games in. Again, I thought Boa Vista would have been a little bit better than what they are. With key additions like Xavi Garcia being one of them, a guy that knows the Portuguese league, that played a couple of years on Benfica, that you expected to come in and take charge of the team, right, and probably be a leader. I thought Boa Vista was going to be a team that was, besides beating Benfica 3-0, I thought they were going to be competitive. Again, it's still early in the league, Bruno, like we spoke, but still have some time to clean it up. But they're a team that's disappointing me a little bit. And a team that's surprising me, I'm not going to lie, it has to be Sporting. Again, we spoke a little bit off here. Sporting is a team that you get a guy like Ruben Amorim, who so far is doing a pretty good job with Sporting, right? They're in the lead of the Portuguese league. They've been getting some good results, some key results. And with a young team, right? With a young team, a couple of players they picked up. They're doing their thing. So to me, not that I'm bashing Sporting or nothing like that, but to me, they are the surprise team so far, because you always, going to every season, what do we talk about? We talk about Benfica, Porto, and then we talk about, is this Braga's year to overtake to be the third best team in Portugal? Every year we speak about that, right? It's always one of those things. Is this the year that Braga's going to take the leap? Is this the year? But Sporting right now is the team that took that leap. And right now, Sporting, if you're looking at their games, they are playing better than Benfica and Porto. And the reason why I'm only mentioning Benfica and Porto is because those are the two teams that we compare and the direct competitor to Sporting, right? So to me, I think Sporting is a team right now that's surprising me the most, and to me, they are playing the best soccer out of the top three. If you want to name Benfica, Porto, and Sporting in the top three.
All right. I mean, the one thing I will say about Boavista, I mean, I've said this in the beginning of the season. Um, I look at them the way you analyze the roster. I look at it this way. They have a lot of names, guys that they signed, but these are pre-retirement players.
You're right. You're right.
You know, those are right at the end, the twilight of their career. You have one huge big-time player, which is Angel Gomes. I think he's probably one of the best center attacking mids. It's arguably top 3 in our league.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, he is on fire. He scored another great goal this weekend. It was in a losing cause, but nonetheless, he makes Boavista go. And then everybody else that fills out that roster are basically players that have a potential to be a decent player in the Portuguese league. And I think what I'm trying to say is the gap between pre-retirement players, only really one above average player, and then everybody else, which is basically a huge question mark. I don't think that that's the recipe to make a successful team to go deep, like make a run at least be competitive for a Europa League spot. I just don't think that it's enough. I think that Boavista has time to turn it around, but I wouldn't bank on them to be contenders for the Europa League, at least this season. Now, as for Sporting, well, we'll get to them in a little bit when Steph joins us. We'll jump right into the Porto versus Portimonense game. Porto beat Portimonense 3-1. Marchesin was in goal. Manafá, Mavemba, Sar, and Zaidu. Corona, Sergio Oliveira, Uribe, Otavio, Marega, and Luis Diaz up top. And then for Portimonense it was Samuel Portugal in goal, Mofi, Antonio, William, Lucas Ponizolo, and Fernandes with Anzai as the left back. The two guys in the middle were Fernandes and Clemente, and then it was Oliveira, Beto, and Mort on the outside in a 5-2-3 formation. Portimonense started this game with a goal on beautiful counterattack. Porto was just one of these ones that they were just looking to counter, and they were catching Porto on sleeping. Very, 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 very slow start once again by Porto. I think they're having a hard time this year adjusting to teams with playing with 5 defenders. They circulate the ball from left to right, right to left, in the middle and attacking third, but then they have a hard time penetrating through the final third with all those defenders. And I think at the end, Portimonense was frustrating them, and I think that was the key to the game was Portimonense focusing on delaying the goal. Well, once the goal was delayed, Porto made a change at the 30th minute, and it was a smart change. He took out Uribe, who lost the ball, walked back, and then we saw Portimonense on the far post knocking in the goal. We saw Taremi come in, and he made a whole difference because it freed up some players. The one guy that didn't seem like he was ever freed up was Marega, because he's just not in good form right now. It doesn't seem like that. The motivation of playing in the Portuguese league is there versus when he plays in Champions League. But Taremi was the difference maker in this whole game. He scores a beautiful goal. Actually, it was Mavimba that scored, but Taremi set it all up with his movements. The second game, it was on a free kick. It was just Taremi right now is the guy that I think needs to start for this team. As of right now, he's probably the best striker in form. Second half, it started with Taremi's goal. He puts it away beautifully. Sergio Oliveira hit him with a nice cross. And then after the second half, Porto had plenty of chances to put the game away, and they weren't doing it. And it seemed like Portimonense was getting closer and believing more and more that they were going to tie this game, and that has a lot to do with um, distractions by Porto's players. Some of them are just not in good form. Again, Manafá -1, Marega -2, and until those two guys get off the starting lineup, Porto's going to struggle in every game. And eventually, Sergio Oliveira scored. He was the man of the match. Um, but I think that it has to start with Taremi and how Taremi frees up space for everybody else. He makes things happen off the ball, which most people don't realize, but he does a great job. Um, Anything to add to that, Litos?
No, I agree with you with the Porto slow start. The lack of concentration at times with some players, right? And I do agree with you with Taremi. I think Taremi is a player that Porto and Allen got, and I think he's a player that's going to have to play more and play a lot more in order for Porto to succeed. I definitely agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I think I just don't understand why he just doesn't start him. I know that he likes Marega because of his work rate, but the work rate is not there. It seems like he's very sloppy right now, and it's you can tell that there's a different vibe with the team. Some guys might realize it. You could definitely see it in the body language because he just doesn't. Champions League versus Portuguese League, it's two different Maregas. And as for Manafá, I just don't understand this obsession with Manafá. It's nauseating now because he's always -1. I mean, Portimonense kept on attacking him in the second half. All their dangerous plays came through Manafá's side. They weren't even trying to go through Zaidu anymore. It's like he wasn't even there. It's like they would get the ball to the right side and swing it quickly to the left where they can counter and attack Manafá. And all their dangerous play was coming through there. It's just I don't understand the obsession with this guy. I don't know if he's got a flash drive on Sergio Conceição and maybe he's got something going on. I don't know, man. It's just nauseating.
Yeah, Manafá came into Porto when Porto picked up Manafá. We spoke about it where he was like a highly rated player that we thought was going to come into Porto and succeed. And I feel that he hasn't been the player that Porto thought he was going to be, bringing him in. What was it? A season and a half ago, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So again, one of those players that was a very influential player on a smaller team. Once you get to the big boys and there's a lot more demanded from you, and you know what I mean. And you get to a team like Porto, Benfica, Sporting, Manchester United, whatever the case may be. There's a lot more demanded from you, right? And now you're just a player that at any time you can go. But Sergio Conceição does not let go of him. And like you said, I could probably feel the frustration because when we talk about Benfica, there's certain players on the same boat. But it's like when you grew up playing soccer, Bruno. There's always that one player that didn't deserve to play, but the dad bought the uniforms, and that's the guy that played, right?
Yeah, and that sounds about right. I don't know I know Manafá's father and Sergio Conceição, they actually grew up together. I don't know if that's the influence. I just don't understand why he has to start every game. And it's not like the opposing teams don't understand that that's the guy that you got to attack. Yeah. Like they will literally work the ball from one side of the field all the way to the other just to attack him. And it's like it's so clear. And I'll tell you another guy that's actually he looks very, very tired is Corona. And it has a lot to do with him always helping out defending Manafá because they run 2v1s on him all day. All day.
And Corona's a guy that has a lot of minutes on his legs, man. And,
absolutely.
And coming from a crazy last season, right, where you take a couple of months off, and then you come back, and it's like you got to get into that routine again to finish off the season. And Corona, who ended up winning, if I'm not mistaken, the Portuguese League MVP, correct?
Yeah.
A guy that was very influential in Porto's title last year, and it's a guy that continues to play. And he's one of those guys on Porto that you look at and you're like, that guy kind of has to play every game, right? Champions League, Portuguese League. Yep. So it's a lot of minutes. And like you said, when you have to come back and you have to defend a lot and in order to help your team defend, it could take a toll on certain players that you're expecting to be at 100% attacking, right? And it's tough. It's tough to see a player like Corona, who you said it looks tired.
He definitely looks tired, and we got a good question here from my friend Steven Samagayo. Bruno, who do you start instead of Manafa? This is a tough question. But I think the ideal answer right now is got to be Corona, and I'll explain why. When the restart after COVID-19 happened this past season, the guy that was the most influential player, just like Ludos mentioned, was Corona. And where did Corona become the most influential player? He was playing right back. He wasn't playing right wing. He was playing right back. So that's a guy that I think I would have to play him there. Does he have to do more running? It's arguable. It's a very debatable thing because I don't think he has to do as much running anymore. Some people say, well, he has to support the attack. Yes, but it's not as much as back and forth, back and forth. It's a little bit more steady. And I think that's probably where he's most influential for Porto. Now, I just saw another guy, Malinga's here. He throws in Nanu, which is an interesting player. But again, Nanu is a guy that we paid 4 million euros for. He has a lot of potential because of his speed / power combo. He's got a tremendous amount of speed. He's very strong going up and down the wing. He's got a lot of durability. I think that's the pecking order right now. If you look at the depth chart, I would be Corona 1, Nanu 2, Manafa would be number 3. And we're not seeing that. We're seeing Manafa starting every game, and it's frustrating me a lot. It's frustrating a lot of Portistas that I speak with. We're getting very, very very frustrated with why Manafa continues to start because he's by far the weakest link on our team, and it's creating a lot of imbalance.
Bruno, let me ask you something real quick. Talking about that right back position, his name is slipping my mind right now. Porto loaned him out, young kid.
Maj Tibbs.
You think he would have been a player that would have been perfect? Obviously, he's a right back. You think Cedric Conceição could have counted on him this year instead of loaning him out, or you think that that option of loaning him out was set from the go, and that's what Porto had in mind?
So, from what I gather from the information that the information of people that I know, the goal was that he was going to be loaned out to Reading so he can get championship experience. When I'm talking about championship, I'm talking about the English championship experience. But he's going to play every game. He already hit the crossbar once. They want him to develop defending, his game defensively. Versus offensively, they're not worried about. It's more defensively is what they're really worried about. Now, I've told you this, and we talked about this in our other podcast. Maj Stivs, to me, should have been a guy that should have been starting since he was 16 years old. That's just the guy that, I've been talking about him for the last 3 years. And, he's a special player. I think he's going to be worth a lot of money if Porto does things the right way. I honestly believe that he should be the starter. I've been saying that for the last couple of years now. This is another good question by our Braga friend David Pereira. Do you think that Porto is better offensively with Corona at right back? And the answer is yes, I do, because again, looking at the goals that Porto scored last season after the restart, Corona was involved in majority of the plays. Litos said it. I said it. I know that Litos knows how to watch soccer. George has, that is not on the show. He said it. Steph has said it in the past. There's a lot of people that have said it in the past. Manafa is not as influential as Corona going from back forward and in transition backwards. Because Corona knows how to play, and he knows how to steady himself. Like, he knows how to pace himself throughout the game. Manafa is just full speed all the time, and he could barely get across accurately. So, all right. Anything else to add there, Litos?
No. I think you pretty much covered it all with Porto.
We're gonna skip the Sporting versus Guimarães 0, Sporting 4, and we're gonna go right into Benfica 2, Braga 3. A stunning result. I know for you, and it was for me because I did not expect that. So go ahead. Do you have the lineups, or do you want me to do it?
No, I got it.
Okay,
in goal, Odysseus. At right back, Gilberto. In the middle, Otamendi, Vertonghen. On the left, Nuno Tavares. In the midfield, we went with Rafa, Samaris, and Pizzi. And up top, Waldschmidt, Darwin Nunez, and Everton.
All right, I'll just do Braga real quick. We do, Braga lined up with Mateus, Esgaio, Viana, Turmena, Sequeira, Galeno, Castro, Musrati, and Moura, Uni Medeiros, and Paulinho. All right, first half. Well, let's start with the lineup because I'm looking at some names here. I'm very interested. We have not had an opportunity to talk about this. What is your feeling talking about right backs? Gilberto, is he the answer or no?
No, Gilberto is not the answer. Gilberto is not the answer. JJ does. Again, Bruno, I haven't been on your show, and this is the first time that your listeners are probably listening to me. I particularly am a JJ fan. I was a fan of JJ coming back. I thought JJ was a guy that did won a lot of trophies on Benfica, right? There's a lot of people that are against the fact of him coming back. That's neither here nor there. He's the coach now, right? And that's what we got to deal with for the next year or two. In typical fashion, JJ came out already and kind of said that he's trying to adapt Diogo Gonzalez to the right back position, right? A guy that was successful in the Portuguese league last year, playing at right wing at Famalicão, right? He was the guy that was very successful, played well, had games where we were looking like, thank God he's going to be he's coming back to Benfica and stuff like that. Is he going to be on the team? Is he not? Gilberto, not the answer. Again, we talk about year after year that Benfica, to me, have to invest money right back and center backs. We spoke about it last year, Bruno, where I thought right back position, center back position. Right now, Gilberto playing is making André Almeida look like a superstar. André Almeida is highly missed. I think André Almeida right now, between them, André Almeida has that spot on lock, right? So Gilberto is not the answer at right back. I know he's adapting to the Portuguese league. It takes some time. Like people say, he's a guy that's coming from the Brazilian league. But Gilberto is also a guy that already had a stint in Europe. If I'm not mistaken, he had a stint in Italy, I believe. So it's and I know it's Italy, Italian league and the Portuguese league, it's not that far apart in difference of style play, right? There's a lot of teams that play defensively and stuff like that when they play the bigger squads. So it's his time of adaptation. We'll see, but he's, to answer your question, he's not the 100% answer.
He's not the answer. Now we're also talking about this off the air very briefly. Ruben Dias sold. Purchased was Otamendi. Was that an upgrade, downgrade? How do you feel about Otamendi coming into Benfica? How do you feel about him wearing the captain's armband? And do you think that he has helped Benfica in any possible way with the absence of Ruben Dias?
I think, to answer your first question, Otamendi is definitely a downgrade from Ruben Dias. You have a guy in Ruben Dias who's on the upcome of center backs in Portugal. He's probably the partner. He's most likely a guaranteed starter when healthy on the national team, along with Pep, right? So Otamendi's a guy that he was on Porto a couple of years. He's been on Man City. He's on the decline. He's a guy that he had to come to Portugal if he wanted to play, or else he was never going to play on Man City again. Even if Ruben Dias didn't go there in a transfer or whatever the case may be, he wasn't going to play there. So definitely a downgrade. I think the captain's armband, to me, that's neither here nor there. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think Otamendi, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not at training. I'm not with these guys all the time. So he might be a leader. Who knows? Maybe he's the voice. You see what I'm saying? What I do think that he's a downgrade. I don't think he's helped Benfica any. I think Benfica's actually, to me, Benfica's biggest problem is our center backs. Listen, Vertonghen is a guy that brings a lot of experience, right?
Yep.
But he doesn't bring speed. He does not bring speed. Otamendi's a guy that brings a lot of experience, does not bring speed. And you see these guys, they get beat. And when we talk about Braga, if we talk about the Rangers, the game against Rangers, these are guys that get beat. And the way Benfica's lineup is now, Bruno, and I'm sure you've looked at it, I'm sure our listeners looked at it, our center back position is very, very weak. So you counting on these two guys to play every game if healthy.
And then your number 3 spot in with Cableta as your head coach is Jardel, who's like 35 or whatever,
Exactly.
which
So
is also slow.
So you're talking, and we can't talk about Champions League because I feel that if Benfica qualified for the Champions League, we wouldn't have sold Ruben Dias. I think Ruben Dias would have still been on the Benfica team. But we're talking about the Europa League. There's Europa League. There's quality teams there.
Yep,
There's quality players in the Europa League. There's a lot more games that you got to play in the Europa League, right?
I would agree.
So these two guys, the way you look at Benfica's depth chart, these two guys have to play every game. They're your two starters. Jardel's not better than them. Ferro had a miserable season last year. He's a guy that you possibly cannot count on. So these are the two guys you're looking to play every game. You think they could do that, Bruno? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I always question that from the get go. Um, I understand the experience of Otamendi, but you have if you know that Vertonghen is lacks speed, you're gonna bring another guy that's probably even slower than Vertonghen to come in and play alongside him. I've said this off the air to people that I know. Benfica has played basically three teams this year. PAOK, you've played Braga, and you played Rangers. Those were your three teams. You have a draw, and you have two losses there. Everyone else that you have played, you beat. I mean, Boavista beat you 3-0, but that to me was a fluke. You went to Riwav. Riwav is coming off a heartbreaking, emotional loss to Milan when they should have won that game. I'm not going to take that into account. So I think those two games wash out each other. So I look at those three teams, and you had a lot of trouble with those three teams because of speed. Speed is killer for this back line. Gilberto, I think tactically is clueless. Nun Tavares, he's a young kid, man. He's going to make mistakes. And then you have to have a quality six. I keep on saying that. I don't understand why Florentino left his team because he was your best six. And he would help out a lot, Otamendi and Vertonghen, if you had a ball winner like him in the middle. So now he surprised Braga with Samaris. Did you agree with this move or not?
No, I definitely didn't. I didn't think that. Listen, Bruno, I might get a lot of heat from Benfiquistas, right? But we all have our opinion. I think somebody's days on Benfica are I think he's past his days here. You go out and you spend 10 million on a guy on Julian Viegel. We spoke about this last year. You go out and you get Gabriel. You go out and we could go on, right? On players that Benfica goes out and gets. We're still sticking to the whole Samaris thing. Samaris is coming back from an injury. He's not. And to play in the midfield, it's almost like he was playing by himself, right? And he's a guy that we know. He's a guy that we know that's going to he's going to cause a lot of fouls, right? He's going to cause disruption in the midfield. But I don't think he's going to, he's definitely a guy that we need in the Balneario because you saw he's a guy that he's a guy. But I think to play, man, I think there's other options out there. Why couldn't Gabriel play, or why couldn't change the lineup a little bit and Darab play from the beginning? And this is the thing. Once we go on, Bruno, we're going to talk about looking at Benfica's lineup. I feel that Benfica, there's certain players on Benfica that I know JJ's kind of looking to rotate him a little bit. There's certain players on Benfica that you're going to have to count on them to play every game if you want to be successful, and that's tough to do.
Sibling is one of them.
Everton, I think the German kid Walschmidt, he's a guy that brings a lot to the team, and I think Nunez, the forward, is a guy that he's a workhorse. I think those three guys are guys that you're going to have to count on to play every game, but at the same time, you want to rotate them, right? Because you don't want to burn these players.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I understand what Gabaleta was trying to do. All right, so Benfica started this game against Braga. First half, I think. What was it? It was 1-0 at halftime. It could have been 2-0 because right before the Braga goal, Braga had a really good chance to score and they messed that up. But also Mateus did have a very good save in the first half. A shot hit to the right, and he was able to parry it away.
Yes.
Were you satisfied of the way Benfica was playing? Did you feel that Braga was superior to Benfica or no?
I thought Braga was a little bit better. You know, listen, again, you watch Benfica, again, you rest key players against Rangers, right? So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know what? They're going to come out. He's putting these guys up in the lineup. I'm thinking Benfica's going to come out and Benfica's going to play hard and attack these guys, right? Yo, Steph.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Man?
What's up, leaders?
What's up, brother?
Not much, bro.
Yeah, so, I'm thinking Benfica's going to come out and Benfica's going to put, especially Bruno, after losing 3-0 to Boavista, which to me is a game that looking forward and like, listen, we're going to have to play Braga next week. I'm thinking the Boavista game is a must win. Is a must win, Bruno, because you don't always think about, okay, in case we drop points, but you have to think like that. In case we drop points to Braga, we have this game to win. How many points were we ahead of Porto and Sporting when we played Boavista? Right? Porto, when we played Boavista.
You had 5, right? It was 5?
5. We beat Boavista. We could have been up. You see what I'm saying? And then we could have. Now, it's not that the season was over, but it's right back in the mix, Bruno. And it's a game that Benfica had to win. And then going against Braga, I'm thinking, you know what, Benfica's going to come out and play a little different. We're going to come out and play hard. And didn't. I thought Braga was a little bit better in the first half. Again, they scored the goal. Benfica had that one nice shot where Mateus made a big save. But even going into halftime at 1-0, Bruno, I still had hope. You know why? Because I'm thinking, you know what, Benfica's going to come out. We're going to turn this around. And right off the gates, it got worse.
All right. Now in the second half begins. And then Braga scores in the 50th minute with Francisco Moura. A beautiful through ball. Catches Benfica kind of pushing up. And he's one-on-one with the keeper, and he just slots it in. 2-0. And then Moura does it again, 3-0. It's almost an assist by it was a long ball, and then it was a miscommunication between Otamendi and Odysseus.
That third goal can't happen, Bruno.
I understand.
There's no way. First of all, the ball comes over Otamendi, and he's calling out the goalie. You know what I mean? You see him waving Odysseus almost like, oh, it's your ball, go get it. But then there's like a miscommunication. Like you don't see the goalie. You continue playing that ball. To me, Otamendi has to run back and header that ball to the goalie. He's making Odysseus come off the box to come to that ball or come to the edge of the box when he could have clearly just chased that ball down and headed it back to the goalie. So to me, there was a miscommunication there. That third goal should have never happened. It was actually embarrassing, but it was a gift that they gave Braga.
Yeah, they gave Braga, which eventually was the game winner. Benfica was able to pull 2 goals back. Seferovic comes in. He scores a brace. He gets things closer. I mean, Benfica, it seems like when Seferovic was on the field, Benfica played differently. All of a sudden, they played with a little bit more urgency because I still think that even before when Seferovic was on the field, it seemed like they were still like, this is Braga. We're going to score at any moment, and we're going to turn this thing around. And then it just wasn't happening. And then, once Seferovic came in, you guys started playing a little bit different. He started opening up a lot more space for himself and for others.
You know what it is, Bruno? I think, like, you look at Seferovic comes in, right? He comes in and he plays with Darwin. Now you have 2 strikers playing, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. If you've been watching the Benfica games, that guy Darwin, he's a workhorse.
Yeah,
that guy's always running, whatever. So by him doing all that moving around, gives Seferovic more opportunity to be in the box. And if you see these goals he's scoring, gives him opportunity to be there and be hungry for these goals, right?
Yep.
2 forwards is a big difference. Darab came in, Beasy, who wasn't doing that well. And something has to happen, man.
I have a question because I know you're a big Beasy fan. Do you believe, because there are people that are talking that since Cableta came in, he took away, quote unquote, the armband from Beasy. Do you think that has an influence in the locker room or on the field, or personally with Beasy, his performance, his individual performance? Do you think it has an influence?
Bro, I don't know if that whole thing has I'm looking at it and I just think it was players that JJ brought in, right? Beasy last year was a guy that Benfica counted on a lot, right? This year, I don't think this year Benfica has to count on Pizzi. I think the German kid is a very good player. Waldschmidt. I think Everton Paulinho is a very good player. I think Darwin is a very good player. So Benfica has other players that they could count on. It's not just. I think more that's what's probably causing Pizzi to lack of playing is that knowing that, you know what, I'm not the man here no more.
Right. I do. I get it because I used to say that with Quaresma. When Quaresma would go, like when he went from Porto to Inter Milan, he was no longer the man, so he wasn't so influential in his game. So it's kind of like the same thing with Pizzi. Pizzi is, well, he's not looked at as, you need to lead us. You need to take over this team. This is your team. And I think a lot has to also has to do with they moved his positioning. Last year he played at right mid. Now they're moving him as a center attacking mid. And I think that he's not as an influential player as a center attacking mid versus when he's a right mid. Do you think that also has an influence?
Yeah, possibly, because I do think that Pizzi was most successful on Benfica when he played at right mid.
Okay.
Right. The 1 year that Pizzi led the league in goals, I believe he played right mid. Last year he led the league in assists playing right mid. I think he was a lot more influential at right mid. Now moving him to the middle because you go out and you get these wingers that you're paying all this money for and pretty much have to play, and they're talented players like Swolina. You went out and got what's his name, Pedrinho or whatever, that's hurt now. You go out and get the German guy that's playing behind her. So there's other influential players, and I think that's what brings Pizzi down to earth. Now it's like, shit, you know what? I'm not the man here no more. You see, and that could be an effect on what he's thinking. And
all right, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to point out to our listener, David and Pereira, the Grimaldo substitution for Benfica changed a lot. Would you agree or disagree?
I was actually reading that, and it was one of the things I wanted to mention. I definitely agree. And here again, I don't understand why, if Grimaldo is healthy enough, and I never understood this with players and teams, right? If the player is healthy enough to be on the bench and possibly be used, why isn't he healthy enough to start, right?
Right.
I think Grimaldo, if Grimaldo's a healthy guy, I think Grimaldo has to start every game for Benfica. He's very influential. We spoke about it last year, the year before. Grimaldo, Alex Telles for Porto. Those were two guys that were very, very influential on the offensive side of the ball for either team. Alex Telles was a very influential player for Porto on the offensive side. And I think Grimaldo is. You see the plays Grimaldo does on the left and the balls he crosses into the box. Those are players to me that have to play. I think if Grimaldo's healthy, he has to be on the pitch.
Steph, welcome to the show once again. I'm going to ask you this question from David Pereira. Castro and Al Musrati were very focused and determined in this match. Castro is an undervalued player in this Liga. Do you agree or disagree?
He's one of those players that we've said so many times on this show and even on Three Tugas that certain players are pretty good in Guimarães and Braga, but não tem estaleta to play in a big club. Maybe it's because of the pressure of the jersey and the fan base. And Castro was one of those. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he came from Porto, Castro. Am I right?
I'm going to be honest with you, Steph. I'm very disappointed that Porto let him go to Braga. I think that if you compare Castro to maybe a Uribe or one of those other midfielders that we have, I don't think that they give as much as Castro does. Castro's a workhorse, and he played with Conceição.
He took over the Palhinha place.
Correct.
So Palhinha left.
Two different players.
And then he's a phenomenal number 6. He does all the dirty work. He's like a Samari no Benfica, for example. And now Palhinha, Mateus Nunes no Sporting. I like him personally. Tem raça. He's one of those players that plays Porto style. So yeah, I like him.
I thought he was very good against Benfica. He shut down a lot of the passing lanes through the middle because it looked like Benfica was trying to get the ball through the middle, trying to get those balls into Darwin and Waldschmidt, and the balls were not getting him. but Castro, I think Castro and Al Musrati definitely had a good game. Salvador brought him in for 4-0 free transfer. Yes, I mean, again, I can't say this enough, David. I think that Porto missed this opportunity of bringing in one of their own back. Even if he was going to be an off the bench player, he would have been better than an Uribe. And that says a lot right there. And Uribe has had some decent games in recent memory, but I think Castro would give more to Porto versus Uribe. All right, Litos, do you have anything else to add to finish up the Benfica 2 Braga 3 game?
No, it's it's again one of those performances where you think your club is going to come out and play hard, especially dropping points the week before against Boavista. It was Boavista's first victory of the year. They put 3 on us. That one guy that we keep talking about, the guy
Angel Gomez.
The guy played like a superstar, right? He carried Boavista, and you're thinking coming into this game against Braga that, listen, we're going to go out and we're going to try to get the 3 points. Especially you drop Boavista, you play horrible against Rangers, and then you come out and you put a performance like that. It's very unsatisfying, and it's something that I look forward to this national team break and hopefully coming back that these players could get it straight and JJ could get something going.
All right. Steph, do you want to have any closing remarks about this game?
I'll be really brief. I did watch the game. It was an entertaining game. When Benfica started coming back, at one point I thought they would tie the game. They had the chance to do so, believe it or not. Lesson learned by Carvalhal, and he admitted at the end on the flash interview that them winning at Estádio da Luz was with a bit of sweat. Sang and suor and luck. That's what he said in Portuguese. But nevertheless, when you make those grotesque mistakes, like Otamendi did, I think he's a downgrade from Dias, big time. I don't think he's a player for Benfica. This is from a Sportingista, so take it with a grain of salt. But he's going down the hill. He's not going up the hill. I think he took the Portuguese league for granted. Our Portuguese league is very competitive and very physical. And, I don't think he's a good enough player for Benfica, to tell the truth.
All right.
Shouldn't even be the captain.
We actually talked about that a little earlier with the whole captaincy because there is some controversy about that.
But besides that, the whole game, Braga did deserve to win just because they scored more than Benfica. And Benfica making those mistakes, they deserve to lose. But the 5 points ahead of Sporting and Porto, of Sporting was actually only 2 because we hadn't played against Gil Vicente.
Yeah. So, to touch on what Steph said, real quick, I don't want to keep the downgrade of Otamendi. If you look at it, I actually think that was a panic move on Benfica.
Yeah.
A panic move where they didn't make the Champions League. We're going to sell Ruben Dias, and Manchester City was probably like, well, we'll buy him, but you got to take this guy.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know what? All right, at least we're getting a center back. Let's just get him. A guy that at one time was a half quality player, right? Was a quality player when he played on board. He was a good center back. You know what? Let's go get him, and we don't have to look further right now for a center back. So I think it was a little bit of a panic move, and right now it's coming back to cost us because you see some of these goals that Benfica suffering, and it's like Bruno and like me and Bruno agreed on. You already have Vertonghen, who's an experienced player but very slow. You just went to go get another experienced player but very slow and can't keep up with these fast players. And a lot of the goals were suffering right through the middle.
Yeah.
And I hate to tell you, Litos, but when you go to Scotland and you have to deal with Morelos there, that's going to be a major problem because he creates a lot of havoc.
Yeah.
Morelos is a good player. All right, Steph, you went to Guimarães. You routed them 4-0. Do you have the lineup or do you want me to do it?
I have it. I don't want a Portista to do my lineup.
Okay, go ahead.
Peraí, tá. Agora um bocadinho a internet. Okay, here we go. Everything is slow today.
I'll do Guimarães while you do that. All right. We had Guimarães had Fidel in goal, Saku, Mumin, Suleiman, and Mensa, Andre Agu and Poja, Marcus Edwards, Brun Duarte, and Ricardo Quaresma.
Sporting had Alain, Net, Luis Neto, Sebastian Coates, and Fidel, the back three. In the midfield, we had Pedro Porro, João Mário, João Palhinha, Nuno Mendes. Up front, Pot, André Esporar, and Nuno Santos. So Sporting started the game really, really strong. We could have scored on the first minute by João Mário, that banger, lá na trave. Didn't happen. Then we had another dangerous play, and then the goal happened by Nuno Santos. After that, Guimarães kind of took over the game because they're playing home and they're losing. So it's natural, it's normal. But at the end of the first half, Pot scored the second goal and made it 2-0. Second half again, it was very similar to the first one. Sporting started really strong. We scored the third goal at the 55th minute by Pot again, Pedro Gonçalves. And then Guimarães created a few chances of goal, but nothing significant. More Chuveirinho style than anything. They only had one shot on net, which was by Suleiman, a great header that Aran defended. That was on the first half. But the second half, nothing serious, nothing major. The goal that they canceled, it was offside, and we can talk about that if you want to. And then Giovanni made the 4-0 at the 74th minute. And all I gotta say is I like the team, the way the team is playing, the dynamics, the chemistry. I like the way Ruben Amorim substitutes the players. He doesn't wait until the very end. So kudos to Ruben Amorim for adjusting the team with João Mário and André Esporar, because we need a ponta de lança. Giovanni is not a ponta de lança. So this is the second game in a row playing with Esporar up front, and it makes a big difference. We have more touches inside the box. So Sporting at this point in time, we're playing well. But, it means nothing to be in the first. It means something to be in first place. Of course, it always means something, especially for the players and the coaching staff. But we all know it's a long season. We still have 27 games left. So the way we got to think is, what's the next game? Sicavines. So we got to play against them and win to move on to the Portuguese Cup. And then the next game will be at home, the 28th against Moreirense. And that's how we got to think at Sporting, step by step, one game at a time, and forget about all the rest of the bullshit about if we, contenders for the title, stuff like that. It's too soon to talk about that. But great performance. I love the way we played, and Sporting deserved to win. 4-0. Não dá para dizer mais nada, pois não. Pronto, é só isso.
Litos, what do you think of this game? Surprising result, no?
Surprising result, especially on the road, right? Against a team like Guimarães, where Guimarães went out, made some additions to their team. You think Guimarães is going to be that team they're usually a tough team. No matter if they make additions to the team or not, they're a tough team to play, especially on the road. Going to Guimarães to play. But we spoke about this off the air. I've spoken about this to a couple of my friends. Ruben Amorim got these boys playing. You got a young coach. You got a young team. They're gelling. It's almost like, and you see it in the NFL, right, where the teams are hiring a lot of young coaches to kind of like come down to the level of the players, right? You don't want this old guy who's been in soccer all these years, or whatever the case may be. Go out, you got a young coach, Ruben Amorim. He comes on. He could relate to these players. He was a player not too long ago, so he could relate to these guys. I think Sporting got a good team. They got a good young team. I'm not a big fan of João Mário, but I think that was a good addition for Sporting because you bring a little bit of seniority onto the team. You bring a little bit of locker room onto the team. You bring back some Sporting, which is what Sporting was missing, right? A guy that lived for the club and that knows what the club's about. So you bring guys like that back. and you mix him around with some young players. Sporting went out. This Pedro Gonçalves kid, I think he's a gem of a player. I think he's a very good young player who has a tremendous uprise in him. And a couple of other players. You keep that experience in the back, which that's one thing that I think Sporting could possibly look to do better in the future is possibly get a little bit more juventud in the back, right? You got Quad Jeanette, these are guys that are already like getting older. So, but I think Sporting's good, man. I think Sporting's good. They went out, they surprised with a 4-0 win, and that's their second 4-0 win in a row. They're scoring goals. They're figuring it out a way. Ruben we got these boys playing. That's all I can say. It's like we spoke before the show, right when the show started. My surprise of the season so far is Sporting, because looking at their lineup before the season started, and not that Sporting won anything yet. I'm not saying that. I know it's only 7 games in, but Sporting right now is playing very good soccer, and they deserve to be in the position that they are at the table right now.
Steph, I'm pretty sure you see Mulinga's question to you. Steph, do you think that Sporar should be a starter?
He's the best striker we have at the moment. When I say striker, I mean someone that's someone that's designated for that position. Because Giovanni is more of a winger. He's not a striker. They tried to adopt him as a striker. It didn't work. Ele não sabe jogar de costas para trás. He doesn't feel comfortable. He doesn't have the first touch. His first touch is very harsh. He lets the ball go all the time. So yeah, he should be the starter for the time being because he's the best we have. The second striker we have it's Luis Felipe. He just came off a very serious injury. I think he might play a few minutes against Kevinense for the Taça Portugal. And then we have Tiago Tomás, but Tiago Tomás is a false 9, more of a winger. And then we have Pedro Marques, which he could be brought in as a striker. Striker de raiz, it's just Sporar and Luis Felipe.
There was one comment here by David Pereira. Suleiman killed Guimarães. I think this statement is definitely true. I think he was involved in 3 of the goals that Guimarães gave up.
2 for sure.
I think it was 3, Steph. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 3. Now this is a guy that came from I think Aston Villa's B team or something like that.
Yes.
A center back that might have some potential, but he's clearly not ready for the Portuguese league. Guimarães by far suffered a lot with this guy in the lineup. They lost Jorge Fernandes, that was the starter. And due to a red card against Braga, and they felt his absence. You had your hand up. You wanted to say something.
Yeah, because before Sporting played the Guimarães, they had the best defense.
Oh, yes. You're right.
With that said, Suleimani, he was actually playing pretty well. He just had a shit game, and that happens with every player.
He wasn't the starter, Steph. It was Jorge Fernandes that was a starter.
No, but he has played before.
He has, but it's always Jorge Fernandes and another guy. It could be Slimani, it could be the other guy, the new young guy. But the bottom line is that when they sold Pedro Henriques, their defense was never the same, and you lost 2 center backs.
What I'm saying is let's not crucify a player just because of one bad game.
He made a lot of silly mistakes. I mean. You heard Litos talk about Otamendi and that big mistake that cost the 3rd goal. These were the same mistakes that resulted in 3 goals. It was really bad.
Coates made a grotesque mistake against Santa Clara. We almost had the game.
You're right.
All I'm saying is let's give some time to this player. He seems to be decent.
He's physical. He's very aggressive. I'll say that. All right, another one from Mulinga. Luis Neto played better. Agree or disagree? I think he played good finally.
He's been very consistent, and that's why Ruben Amorim keeps him. Like Litos, he nailed it right on the head. He brings experience. And if you look at the back four of Sporting, and when I say the back four, I'm including the goalie, Adam tem 30 talentos, Luís Neto, 30 talentos, Sebastián, 30 talentos, Fedal, 30 talentos. So what is Ruben Amorim doing? He's betting on experience in the back, and it's working for him. So if your defense is the best in the league and they're doing pretty well, why are you going to substitute Luís Neto? Because the fans don't like him? You got to leave it alone.
I mean, eventually they'll turn things around if he continues to keep score sheets clean. You're fine. All right. We're gonna move ahead. Steph, do you want to add anything else?
All I gotta say is Maxi, I love him, but at this point in time, I understand why Adan starts, because a lot of Sportingistas, they kind of upset that Maxi he lost his starting job. But you know what? Adan is better than him with his feet. He's got more experience, and he brings more calma in the defensa. He brings more confidence to the defense. So I'm with Ruben Amorim with Adan.
All right. We'll move ahead to the national team. They played Andorra yesterday.
Yeah.
They won 7-0. I think Ronaldo scored 1. Paulinho scored 2. Pedro Neto, I think, got on the score sheet as well for his first international goal on the senior squad. Litos, what'd you think of the performance?
Again, Portugal. Real quick, Portugal's lineup, right, was a what a lot of people possibly think it's a subpar lineup, right? Anthony Lopes, Nelson Smith, Ruben Smith, Domingos Duarte, Mario Rui, Renato, João Moutinho, Sergio Oliveira, Trincão, Paulinho, and Pedro Neto. You look at this lineup and you're like, Fernando Sanchez actually obviously given a lot of these players an opportunity to show what they can do, which is, I think he's doing the right thing. It's a friendly game. Win or lose, we always want to win. But you look at it, we know what Rui Patricio could do, right? We know Rui Patricio is going to be our starter. Why does he have to play every friendly game? Give other guys an opportunity, right? And that's what Fernando Sanchez did. And I think, listen, and I'm not trying to be biased or nothing like that. Portugal has a very, very, very talented national team. I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'm not being like a lot of Portuguese people I'm talking to that are saying, "Oh, we have a good chance to win the European Cup. We need a World Cup." Listen, we have a very, very talented player. To me, I actually think that might not benefit us in the long run, because I think we're too talented. We're in certain positions, we have too many players for that position, right?
But then there's other positions that there's not enough.
Exactly. Center backs, we lack center backs, right? Midfield, we're full of wingers and midfielders, right? You got listen, and a lot of guys might like him, a lot of guys might not like him. A guy that's starting to play very well, a guy that made the right choice in going to France to play, has been Renato Sanches. I think he's been playing very well. He's a guy that's been playing well. And you look at him, and he's a guy that does not have a spot in the starting team, right? Because there's so many other good players playing right now. Not even to name them all, Bruno Fernandes and so forth, right? So I think Portugal's very talented. I think that Portugal has a good chance to showcase their talents, and I think it's time that Portugal, that other teams, when they play against Portugal, they should be like, oh shit, we're playing against Portugal. It shouldn't be the other way around where Portugal's like, oh damn, we're playing against Germany or we're playing against France. We shouldn't be scared to play those teams anymore. I think that we're talented enough where we have to go into these games thinking like, you know what, we're going to go out and try to win this game.
But the one thing I want to touch on, you just said something that was very curious. You're saying that Portugal should not be scared to play against a France, for example. Do you think that the only reason why we don't play a little bit more aggressive is because who the head coach is?
That might be. That might be something to think about, right? Fernando Sanchez is a guy that I think precautions, right? He's conservative, more defensive than offensive minded. But if you look at it offensively, Portugal got all the tools. I think, the midfielders, the wingers, the number 9 position we could talk about, right? We could debate who could play that position, or if Portugal. Listen, don't forget, Spain won a World Cup and a Euro Cup without a number 9, correct?
Correct.
So we could debate and but now Paulinho is up on the rise and he's getting an opportunity. There's other guys, so I don't know. It's something that Ferran Sanchez has to think about. But I agree with you, Bruno. I think it is because of the coach that we have. I'm not bad mouthing the man, but I think it is because of his mentality of being a little bit more conservative that Portugal was into these games playing more conservative.
Steph, would you agree or disagree?
I agree, and I agree to a certain extent because we've been gaining a lot of good results with Fernand Santos.
This is true.
So the consistency, the respect that we've gained with Fernand Santos, like Lito said, playing against France in the Stade de France, Portugal behaved like a top-notch team. We're not afraid of France whatsoever. I think the French at one point, they were afraid of us when we tied against them last game. So Portugal has earned a reputation of a top-notch team, and we better be, because have you seen the group stage that the group that we fell into for the European 2021?
Yeah.
If you could share that with our listeners, because I don't even know it.
It's a Germany, France, and Hungary.
Germany, France, and Group de Mort. Oh, that's the toughest group, hands down.
You know what, Steph? You know, in you know what I want to say about that? The group, typically Portugal, when they fall into the group of death, they usually rise to the occasion and they advance. Usually, that doesn't necessarily all the time, but usually they do. And I think with a Germany and a France, I mean, let's be real. Whoever loses to Hungary
is done.
Or loses points to Hungary, they're done.
Done. Yeah, but I agree 100% with Leach. The team that played against Andorra, it's a quality team. Andorra wishes he could have those players on their side.
I'm sure.
It's not I mean, the first half against Andorra, it was a high quality team. They were playing great football. And when the other players played in the second half, it was seamless. The transition of the substitutions, I didn't feel any hiccups. Portugal played it as well. Pedro Neto scored 1 goal. Paulinho scored 2. Renato scored a beautiful goal. So it was a great, and Ronaldo scored the last one. A great performance by João Felix as well. And their own goal by Emilio Garcia. But we have a great team, and I can see that we might have a shot of doing great things, but sometimes it takes a little bit of luck. So let's see if we have a great team. Now we need good referees and a little bit of luck, and we could win some titles. But one step at a time.
I want to add something that Litos did say. The pool of players obviously is there. You can make a very good selection of a team to go to the Euro, but just people have to keep this in the back of their mind. Portugal's typically not used to having such a pool of players, and one thing that we have had in the past, especially the U21 level, where we had these super teams, you would look at the bench and you'd be like, man, a lot of these guys could even start on this team.
Well, that's what I say, Bruno. Sometimes it's bad. Like, you're so talented that it could backfire, right?
Yeah. Well, and all those teams never won. That's the one curious thing about that subject, is that they never ever won a title. They got to the final that one year, and then they lost in penalties to Sweden, but they played great soccer. They destroyed Germany 5-0 in the semifinal, but they were never a team that would ever win a title. We've had many teams like that in the past where you would look at the roster, you'd be like, wow, if this team doesn't win this title, I don't know what we have to do to win. And I've always said this.
It's like I said to you, and we need luck.
Luck.
Campeão.
Yeah, you need it, and especially in that group, which is Germany, France, and Hungary. You're gonna need some luck. Now, Germany is a very talented team. They're probably even more loaded than Portugal, to be honest with you.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Look, the first half lineup was Anthony Lopes. He plays where? In Lyon.
Leo, yeah.
Good team. Mario Rui, Domingo Duarte, Ruben Smith. Lito said we struggle. We don't have a lot of center backs. I consider Domingo Duarte and Ruben Smith up and coming, great players. Nelson Smith, João Moutinho, Sérgio Oliveira, Renato Sanches, Pedro Neto, Paulinho e Trincão. That was the first half team. You telling me that this team is a great team?
It's a good team, yeah. There's no doubt about it, Steph. The problem is that do I think that they're more talented than Germany? I would say no.
No, hold on. The second half was they put Diogo Jota, which is doing phenomenal at Liverpool. João
right.
Felix, he's doing phenomenal at Athletic Madrid. I know you hate him, but he's doing great. Cristiano Ronaldo, he's Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't need to emphasize anything about him. William Carvalho, Bernardo Silva, Daniel Pereira. He's playing great at Paris Saint-Germain. He's already a starter.
As a center back, though.
2 days ago.
But hold on, as a center back. Keep that in mind. Danilo at PSG has moved from center defensive mid to center back. They've been playing more.
I'm not talking about Paris Saint-Germain. I'm talking about seleção. Fernando Sanches, he doesn't agree with the Paris Saint-Germain coach. So.
I'm just saying, because we talked about that earlier, Litos and I. He did mention that the center back position is probably the weakest position for the national team, which years ago was probably the strongest area. Now it's the weakest, and we might have to adapt the Nilu.
I don't think so. I don't think it's the weakest.
It's pretty weak, man.
I mean, I consider Ruben Smith and acabei de dizer o nome dele, o Duarte.
Domingos Duarte.
Ruben Dias, and then who plays with Ruben Dias usually? Pep.
Well, Pep is pushing 40 years old, man. Like
I know, but
he's not going to be around for the next.
I agree. I agree. We only wish he could be.
He'll be for the next Euro.
Yeah.
That's it.
But he'll play 2 out of those 3 games. I mean, I don't think he can play against Hungary. Like, that's too many games.
No. He's always good for a red card, so we have to see what happens after.
Só sua pinturada chegar lá.
Vamos ver.
No, it's definitely exciting times to be a Portuguese supporter, right? Because you have so many talented players, and you look at these players and you're like, wow, like they all majority of them play in top teams, right? And they're playing competitive soccer week in, week out, and barring any injuries, if they all stay healthy, I think Portugal has a very, very good team, and I think they're going to be not only a good team, I think it's going to be a very, very exciting team to watch come these competitions. But you have a guy like Diogo Jota, who's when that guy gets the ball and he's running at a player, that guy he's so quick, and the way he just listen. I was and not to prolong this, but when he signed for Liverpool, I was one of the guys that was saying, you know what, Diogo Jota might have just ruined his career, because here's a guy from Wolves that I thought, like, you know what, maybe if he goes to Man United or Tottenham, he'd be an automatic starter and he'd show more. But I was wrong, because he goes to Liverpool. Every time Klopp gives him an opportunity to play, the guy plays very, very well, and he's been scoring goals. So
he's doing a great job. I mean, no one can say anything.
I mean, you know whose spot he took at Liverpool?
Oh, Mane?
Oh, Firmino.
Oh, Firmino?
Firmino. Está no bench because of
yeah.
But let's be honest, Steph. Firmino has not produced goals at Liverpool. Goals.
That's a good point that you bring up, and I'm going to counterattack that because Firmino, somebody actually brought up a good point. He makes a lot of assists, and he makes a lot of he plays.
He opens up space.
Yeah, exactly.
Firmino was a striker that was very influential, not scoring goals.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, he's like Taremi and Porto. He's more of a guy that opens up space for others versus for himself.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying, Steph. He is influential, but the problem is they want goals from him. They don't want the other stuff.
I agree, of course. Every coach wants that now.
Well,
Listen, look at Liverpool. You bring in Thiago Alcantara, right? You have Salah, you have Mane, you have enough guys that are going to be influential, not scoring goals. So you're number 9. You need a guy to start scoring some goals.
yep, and that's how
you know,
he's looking
that
at
guy.
it. That's how he's looking at it. All right, another one from David Pereira. Fernand Sanch will call Pep and José Font until they retire. He trusts them. Do you guys agree or disagree?
Well, I think I'm sorry, Steph. I think Pep
No,
is a guy that listen. He's been playing on Porto. He's been playing on Porto week in and week out. And you look at Pep. He's playing well.
Yeah, he's influential.
I don't care how old he is. The guy's healthy. If he's still playing well, you got to play him. Look at the game against France where we tied 0-0, where he chased Mbappe down, and even Mbappe's looking like, holy shit, this guy just caught up to me. Like, dude, if the man's playing, he's healthy. Keep calling him up. He has the experience.
Pep was probably the best player on the field that day against France. Steph, do you agree or disagree?
No, I agree because I agree about both Font and Pep. Pep is a phenomenal player. And I just wish Sporting didn't make that mistake when we had the chance to get him from Maritim years ago. And then he went to Porto. Because now he would have been playing.
Past, man.
Yeah, that was many, many moons ago. But I still remember when Sporting passed up Pep. Porto without Pep, they're miserable. They're one of the top defenses. And then when he didn't play 2 games, and I saw goals.
We struggled.
They struggle. You guys struggle big time, and you will struggle if he doesn't play anytime soon. And I hope so. But the sub-21 team, can we talk about that really fast?
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't know that they played, but go ahead.
Yeah, they played today and they won 3-0. So they just one game away to qualify for their own European.
Who do they beat?
Belarus.
Okay.
And the next game will be on the 15th against Cyprus. So we'll win for sure. And then we qualified as the best second, and we still could beat the Netherlands for the first place. But anyway, if you look at the squad at the sub-21, it's another phenomenal up-and-coming kids that we have. Goalie, Diogo Costa. Then we have Dalot, Diogo Queiroz, Diogo Leite. Talking about sending backs, and we don't have them. We do have them. They up and coming. Nuno Mendes, up and coming. Florentino, he's playing in the French team. He's playing well. Gelson Fernandes, Jota, Carvalho, Vitor Freire, Fábio Vieira. And then the bench was, look at this bench. Luis Maximiano, Pedro Pereira, Pot, which he came in on the second half. Rafael Leão, he came in, he didn't play at all. Daniel Bragança, Tomás Tavares, Gonçalves Ramos, João Mário, o mais novo, claro, e o Joelson Fernandes, only 17 years old. So our sub-21 team is up and coming. If anyone from the A squad, they slip or they're not performing well, guess what? We have a lot of quality in the sub-21 that I'm pretty sure Fernand Sanch won't hesitate to call them.
I agree. But that's been for the last couple of years. We've had some good players on the U21, and they have a loaded roster every time. The problem is that they cannot win the big one, which is a U21 Euro Championship. That's something that they continue to miss year or competition in and out. They just can't win the big one.
We've won the big one under 17.
Yes. With some of these players.
Yeah, exactly. So, sometimes it's the fact of luck, like I told you. So maybe this time we'll be lucky. I don't know.
We'll see.
The thing, I know Steph mentioned one guy that he's a guy that, Bruno, we've spoken a lot about him in the past. Diogo Leite. Diogo Leite, the guy that, and I agree with Steph, I think Diogo Leite is a good player, right? He's a good quarterback. But what Diogo Leite lacks is the minutes on Porto, the consistency on every week play on Porto, and I think that's what's going to hurt him with getting to the A team. Yeah. I don't know if you guys think differently or if you.
I think differently.
You know,
I do, Litos, and I think he's one of those guys that he's gonna make the U21 squad every time, right?
oh yeah, that he's
No,
got.
he's not talking about that. He's talking
No,
about the rhythm. He's
I'll
not
get
in the
there. I'll get there, Steph. But I understand that he's going to be make the U21 squad all the time. The problem is that he's not going to get the playing time at Porto. He's going to need to be loaned out where he can gain the experience that is required. That Steph is talking about, the minutes.
Makes
The
sense.
problem is he's never going to get those minutes at Porto. He's never going to develop into what they hoped him that he was going to be. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that you're going to look maybe in a couple of years, maybe about 4 or 5 years down the line, he might come back to Porto one day. But right now, he's going to be one of those guys I think at the end of the year, they're going to let him go. They're going to sell him, or they're going to trade him, or they're going to do something. They're going to transfer him out,
But
and
Bruno,
then we'll probably bring him back.
but Bruno, that Diogo was a guy that Porto fans spoke so highly of.
Yeah, you're right.
When he was on the upcome. What's the
Yep.
problem with him not being able to get into the starting lineup? Is he not good enough? Is he talent?
He's not good enough. He makes very poor decisions. Look at the game against Paços Ferreira. If you watch the game against Paços Ferreira, you can see the amount of errors that guy made. And he makes them consistently, game in and game out, that he does play at Porto. And that is the problem. Like, you're supposed to eliminate a lot of those mistakes from one game to the next. He doesn't do it. Look at what happened this past weekend. Pep was not available. Who was the guy that they benched? It wasn't what's his name? It was Duke Late that got benched. It wasn't Mabimba. It was him.
It wasn't the French guy.
It wasn't Mabimba. It was him. Sar came in, and he actually played pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. He played pretty good. So,
but then it's a problem with your coaching staff, because how does Dio Late play in the national team and he feels comfortable and plays well, but when he plays for his club team, he doesn't play as well. It's a lack of confidence. Something that Sérgio Conceição has to work on.
I disagree, because I saw the last break, Steph, the last international break. He made one hell of a mistake that led into a goal against Portugal, where he tried to dribble out of the back.
I didn't think you watched Portuguese games, the national team.
For the highlights.
Okay.
And I was looking at it, I was like, opa, he can't jogar no Porto. That's what I said to myself. I said, how is this guy going to ever play at Porto if he keeps on making mistakes like this? Because that was one of his strengths, is that he knows how to build out of the back. As a center back, he knows how to build out of the back. He has the quality. He's 20 years old. I mean, I get that, but
there it is.
My argument is this: he needs to go through the Jorge Costa, Ricardo Carvalho, that type of thing, where they have to be loaned out for maybe 1 to 2 years, gain enough experience, and then return. Because right now he's just not going to develop into what they hope him to be, because he's just not going to get the minutes that he is required. I understand, and I do agree 100% of what you're saying. He's going to need those minutes. However, he's not going to get those minutes at Porto, and you can't mess up like he messes up at Porto, and they're going to lose a lot of games because of him. All right, let's look at some of these things. Not to mention Trincão Neto, who could play, if not on the A squad. Trincão, I think, is going to be a guy that will definitely be called to the national team come the Euro. Neto, I'm not so sure. Johnny Cinedo. The last time we beat Germany was in 2000. He's probably right.
That's what he's saying.
Noon Mins over the law. I mean, the law is another guy that needs to get out of where he's in Milan now. I'm not even sure if he's playing regularly or not.
He's getting more minutes.
He's getting more minutes. I mean, he's a guy that I think that ideally should have came back to Porto, and he probably would have played majority of the time at Porto versus him going to Milan and then him going to wherever he was, Manchester United or whatever. Bruno, you think that Machtives could make those errors as well at right back? I think that I talked the world about Machtives. I think he's a very, very good player. Do I think he's going to make as much of those errors? No, because he's playing at right back versus center back. Center back, unfortunately, you make one mistake, you're one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and that's not a good predicament to be in. You're going to be looking pretty bad. All right, guys. Any other thing else do you guys want to cover today?
The up and coming game of Portugal.
Nah, it's against France, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Sabado.
Right. Go ahead, Steph. Since you brought it up.
Well, it's going to be a tough game. I mean, it's the European champion against the world champ. So it's a game that will call the attention of millions of fans all over the world. So, and Ronaldo usually strives. Bernardo Silva strives with those kind of games. Diogo Jota loves those kind of games. And it's a chance for João Felix to silence his critics in that kind of game. So if he pulls out his A game against France, João Felix, is going to shut up a lot of especially Portistas. So I'm going to be watching the game for sure. I support the national team at 100%. And it's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be 22 awesome players, the best players of the world. Can wait. I'm going to say Portugal will win 2-1.
Hey, okay. Litos.
Portugal, France, it's almost becoming like this very good rivalry, right? We've been watching them play so often lately, and we're going to keep watching them play come the Euro next year.
I know.
It's a main attraction, right? It's a main attraction. Like Steph says, the only thing I disagree with Steph is he said 22 players. I think there's 46 tremendous players on both rosters, right? At one time. But I do see what he says. The 22 players on the field. I think Portugal is going to put out their A-class lineup, just like I think France is going to put out their A-class lineup. I think we're going to see, barring no injuries, you're going to see everybody go at it. With Steph, I agree. I think if João Felix is a starter and if he plays behind the forward like he should be playing, I think that João Felix is going to have a very influential game. And I'm not even looking for him to have an influential game. I'm looking for everybody on the team to have an influential game. You got guys that want to show from on such that they want to play and that they can play at a high level. And then they're not playing against Andorra. They're playing against a quality national team. And I think Portugal has the talent to keep up with them, man. I don't know about the scoreline, but I'm gonna say it's probably gonna be another tie.
Oh, that's all right. That's a good prediction. Here's a good one from David Pereira. Last question, my friends. Jota, Ronaldo, Felix, and Silva, odd man out in 4-3-3. So is Silva the odd man out in the 4-3-3?
No, I think Jota is going to be the odd man out. And the reason why is because I think Bernardo Silva brings a lot more experience to a field than Jota does. I think the capability of holding onto a ball, to the capability of making a smart pass. I think Bernardo Silva is a different player than Diogo Jota is. I think Diogo Jota is talented. I think he's a player that's going to get the ball and go forward. And I think Bernardo is a smarter player, a player that's more hold the ball and see where we're going with it, and make smarter decisions. So I think on a 4-3-3, you might see Jota the odd man out.
Now, Litos, I'm going to throw something at you. Using those same four players, I think all four can still play.
So do I.
Would
they sacrifice somebody in the middle?
Bernardo Silva would be the 10.
But then who do you sacrifice in the midfield?
So you would have to pick Danilo or William, right?
I don't think they both should be playing at the same time anyway.
I agree with you, but on the field, they've been proving me wrong that they are compatible. So, but okay, let's just say hypothetically speaking, you're gonna have to pick one of those, or you're gonna have to sit Bruno Fernandes, which I don't think you're gonna do.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with Litos. Jota will sit down.
You think Jota will sit?
Yeah, he will sit because he's up and coming, but everything is very recent. And Jota, he'll strive when France is tired in the second half. And Bernardo Silva, he's a playmaker. And Jota is more of a winger. He looks for the empty space, open space, and then he's good on one-on-one. Bernardo Silva, he's there to make plays and to make it happen. He's the engine, o motor da equipa. Not so much Jota. Jota is great because he scores a lot of goals. So that's why I tend to agree with Leach and that he can start on the bench. He's not going to sit Bernardo Silva at all.
I was gonna bring this up. Bernardo isn't as on form as Jota. He's on the hot foot. I do agree. Bernardo has not been the Bernardo of maybe a year or two ago, or not, at least not in that form.
At Manchester City and the national team, you can even tell. And the national team is playing well.
Yeah, but Bruno, just I don't know who posted that comment and
Johnny Cinedo.
Johnny, but there's the difference though. You play with Jota, Ronaldo, and Felix. You leave Bruno Fernandes by himself to create anything for those three guys. You drop Jota to the bench and you play Bernie. You have the opportunity to change a formation on like that and put Bernie and Fernandez in the middle, creating more space for more opportunity and more play for Felix and Ronaldo. I look at it. That's the way I'm looking at it.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean,
Bruno Fernandes stranded by himself.
The one thing that we can honestly say is we have a lot of options versus many years ago. If this guy's not in form or that guy's hurt or whatever, you're scratching your head and you're trying to improvise with certain guys.
And I think the good thing about Portugal's lineup is we have players that, with Fernando Santos blowing a whistle onto the field and calling out a key secret word, that the formation could change and you would never tell that the player is out of rhythm, right? You have a guy like Bernie that he could play on the wing and all of a sudden Fernando Santos could say something, the formation changes and you have Bernie in the midfield behind the forwards. And along with other players. So I think that's key also.
Now I have a question because you guys were talking about, you have João Felix in there. But you did mention, Litos, that he would play behind the striker. So are you saying that they would play in a 4-4-1-1? Or are you saying they would play in a 4-2-1-2?
See, to me, João Felix succeeds behind the striker. You saw João Felix last year on Athletic Madrid was having a horrible season. Why? Simeone kept insisting on him playing on the wing, right? This year, what do? They go out, they sign Suarez, who's a true forward, a true number 9, and they put Felix playing right behind them, and they're both succeeding.
As a false number 9, yeah.
Exactly. So that's you. When you have players like that and you want them to succeed, you have to play around their style of game if you want them to succeed. No, you're not gonna. But Fernando Santos again, and not only Fernando Santos, past coaches. Where we lost key games in key tournaments. Why? Because they try to adapt players to certain positions that they weren't playing.
All right. I mean, that's fair enough. This is a good debate. I mean, this is why we have all these ideas. I mean, Steph has his ideas of, should we put in Jota, maybe bring him in the second half when the defense is tired. Let's bring in Jota's burst and he can really wear out a defense.
Oh yeah, big time.
You have your vision of, hey, let's put Felix where he's more of a creative role behind the two strikers, and we can have Bernardo do his thing, and we can have so and so do this, and there's a lot of creativity that you can do. The problem is with all these players, Fernando Santos, if he doesn't win, people are gonna be looking at him like, well, dude, you had this massive roster. With all this talent, you can't win. What's the problem now?
But that's an argument that you bringing up, and it's not even worthy because he's been winning.
You're right. He has been. He has been winning. I mean,
so like.
Well, let's be honest.
And you said it too. The Netherlands, they had great teams, and they could never go over the hump.
They could never win. You're right.
Yeah.
They could never win.
And Fernando Santos is doing what we all want the Portuguese citizens, which is to at least qualify to the European tournament and World Cup tournaments, and then we'll see how far we can go. Because those competitions after the group stage, it's one game, and then you need a lot of fucking luck and a good referee, calls to go our way, and hopefully the next tournament, we'll get all that.
I like Portugal won the European Cup 4 years ago, with I believe less talent that they have now.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. And within 4 years, you pretty much got super amounts of talent on every position on the field that you added onto it, right? So again, it's like we said in the beginning, it's a good headache for Fernand Sanchez to have when he has to make these moves and for the technical staff, but could also be a bad headache because there's so much talent that sometimes it could just, you don't know what to do with it.
And
one player's got to call. He has to call no matter what. And you guys not going to believe it when I say it, but it has to be Paulinho. He's a true striker. He has to make the team.
Well, Paulinho's getting his opportunity now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure Paulinho's going to be a guy that we'll see against France, maybe off the bench. If Portugal needs a goal or something, because he's a true number 9, right? You guys would agree, or
Well, I'm gonna throw another name at you, Steph.
Go ahead.
This is a guy that has not been talked about in the media in Portugal, but Andrés Silva has been scoring just about. He's scoring on a frequent basis at Eintracht Frankfurt. Are you gonna take a Paulinho over him, or are you gonna take Andrés Silva over a Paulinho as the next striker? Because you're gonna only take so many.
Yeah, you can only take so many. So we have 2 quality strikers, Andrés Silva and Paulinho. Who's the other striker?
You might. I mean, if the way they usually do it, they usually take
number 9s. I'm talking about number 9s, huh?
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, you're gonna have those are probably your top 3 9s.
Which ones?
Oh, it'd be Ronaldo.
No, El Extremo.
Yeah, but he's been playing more of a 9.
No, and that's like depends. It's like Lito said. He moves around. He plays extremo, jogas a número 9, and the team adapts.
I think he's a 9, and then you have. You would what would you say, Litos? João Felix?
No,
I think
a 9.
I think one of those guys is going to get sacrificed, man. I think it's going to be. I think he's going to take or either Paulinho or Andrés Silva. I don't think he'll take both.
Both.
Well, there's no room to take both. I don't think.
Yeah.
No. You have to sacrifice a defender or midfielder.
No, that's the thing. I don't think you can.
No, you can't. Because how many players can he take? Is it 24?
23.
23 only. Holy shit, that's nothing.
So think about it. It's 2 players for every position, and then an extra keeper. Because usually you have 3 keepers.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have to play. You're gonna have to take 3 keepers, and then it's 2 players for every position.
What is that?
On the field,
he could sacrifice. He could sacrifice Pedro Neto. And looking at the 23-man roster right now that he got for these games, you could probably sacrifice Pedro Neto to call up Andrés Silva.
It will be. I think Pedro Neto will be sacrificed. Renato Sanches will be sacrificed.
I don't know about all that because he's been calling both of them. I think
Renato's going to be on the 23-man roster, man.
Yeah, I think Sanches is going to go.
He's playing well. I'll give him that much, but I don't know.
I think he's a guy that's going to have to go. The guy that's probably questionable in the midfield is probably Ruben Neves.
Well, who's up and coming in the Portuguese league?
Yeah,
I have to throw the name. I have to bring it up. I mean, I'm sorry, but
this is also barring Paulinho has this crazy season like he had last year.
Yeah,
like he's getting an opportunity for these games because of what he did last year, not because of what he did these first 7 games so far.
But it makes sense that he's getting an opportunity.
Definitely, absolutely.
It's better him to get an opportunity than Cicada. Who the fuck is Cicada? Cicada of Braga. I don't know why he was called, but Paulinho, I do get it, and I agree with it. But Cicada.
I think a player scoring goals like that, and on a team that's above par, I think he deserves a chance at a game too.
Agreed.
Right, this is a good one right here. Paulinho plays better with his head as opposed to Silva on the ground. Paulinho is a better passer than he gets credit for. I would probably agree with that statement. Is he better at heading than Andrés Silva? The answer is yes. Is Andrés Silva superior to Paulinho's passing game? I would say yes. Does Paulinho get enough credit for him as a passer? Probably not. but I just still think Andrés Silva is better than him in terms of passing versus anything else. The only, and here's another good one. I was about to bring this up. Does Moutinho make the 23?
I don't know. I don't know if he will. I mean, I think he will because Fernando Santos, just like Pep
yes, true trust him.
And Fontes will call him.
Lidos, you think so?
João Moutinho is a guy that we've counted him out the last two tournaments.
100 times, right?
Oh my God, why is this guy? But listen, in the Euro Cup, the guy played well.
Yeah.
You know, he's playing at a high level every week at Wolves. He starts and plays every game.
He's like a Swiss watch. Yeah.
So
I hate the guy, but he's good.
But you know what, Lidos? So you got Moutinho, right? But then Steph brings up, you have Paulinho, right?
No,
and then you have Romario.
I'm not talking about Paulinho.
No, but you have to talk about him.
Okay, I was talking about Pedro Gonçalves.
No, well, yes, but you also have to start considering Paulinho in that mix.
So if you bring Paulinho, Danilo is gone.
It's possible.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say no.
He plays the Danilo position and William Carvalho, kind of.
I think like these guys that we're talking about, I think like Pedro Gonçalves and those guys, I think they're one tournament away from you see what I'm saying? I don't think the next tournament is their tournament. I think after the next Euro, you're gonna start seeing these guys again.
Okay, Leeds and Bruno. I'm gonna throw you a curveball just for fun. Let's have some fun. That's why we do these little podcasts. It's for fun. So let's say Sporting stays on top and has a phenomenal season because of Pedro Gonçalves and because of Paulinho. Then what?
But let me ask you a question, Steph. In return to your question, I see what you're saying. Like, how don't you take him? Who do you sacrifice to take Pedro Gonçalves?
I don't know, because if Pedro Gonçalves is doing well, he's doing well, it means that the other players, they're not doing so well.
Trincão doesn't go.
Because Barcelona is struggling?
Yeah, I mean, all right, let's say things stay as is, right, Steph? It's consistent all the way until May. Barcelona struggles. Trincão gets a lot of minutes, but Franco's going to look at him and be like, well, you played at Barcelona because they were struggling. You were off the bench. You were starting. You were off the bench. You were starting. Very inconsistent. We're going to go with a guy that's starting more on a regular basis, scoring goals, which is Pedro Gonçalves. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, but Bruno, I think that's where the things behind the scenes come into play that we don't know about.
Boy, ahí está.
With guys that play for high-powered teams with high-powered sponsorships that aren't going to allow Fernando Santos to make those types of decisions.
Exactly.
We spoke about it last year, and I was a firm believer. João Felix last year, if the Euro Cup was in the summer, did not deserve to go to the Euro Cup. But I told you, and I guaranteed that forget about COVID, if the Euro Cup happened, João Felix would have made the roster. Why? Because here you have a guy that went to a big squad that they just paid $120 million for. He was going to have to be showcased. You see,
I agree.
That's where like the behind the scene things come in. Pedro Gonçalves, I'm not bashing Sporting, but then you have Pedro Gonçalves and you have a guy that plays at Man City, or you have a guy that plays at Barca. I think that's where the politics get involved, and certain players have to get called up.
Agree.
And now, Steph, Lidos just explained to you why I could care less about the national team because of BS like that. Because I believe that the BS should not be part of the national team. The 23 top players in form should go, not the 23 players based on background, agent, coach, this, that, the other.
But hold on. But the players we're talking about, we're not saying they're below form. Trincão is playing well. But he's playing well. He's playing at Barcelona. He's not playing at Braga anymore. He's playing at Barcelona.
Yeah, we're not talking about chumps either.
Yeah. But hold on a second. Steph, but one thing is he playing as well? That's the question.
He is playing as well, but he's not the superstar of the team. He doesn't stand out like he used to with Braga because he was the only one that could make those kind of plays. He goes to Barcelona full of talent. The only one at fault, not the only one, is the coach still didn't find the chemistry for the team to gel. Just like Jorge Jesus, he's struggling at Benfica. because the team is not gelling because he hasn't found the good chemistry, the dynamics of the team. I think fucked up with the center backs, by the way.
But that's where now you're saying. I heard you say that Danilo would probably not be called. I'd say Danilo.
No,
called.
I didn't say that.
No, hold on. I'm saying no. I'm telling you. I think that Danilo will be called as a center back versus as a center defensive mid because he can add something a little more to the national team versus Zefont, who was already past his prime, and he doesn't have the versatility to play different positions as, for example, Danilo. And I keep on wanting to throw these two guys in there. Palhinha and João Mario still have something to say on the national team.
You're right.
João Mario that plays on Sporting?
Yes.
Listen, I'm going to have to disagree with you guys. I think João Mario's time on the national team is a wrap. I think there's way too much talent. There's way too much talent on the Portuguese team better than João Mario.
I don't
know because the last two games he played at Sporting, and I agree with you, Litos. It's still too soon. Let's see a few more games and to see if he's consistent. But he brings a lot of. He's only 27. He's not that old.
Yeah, he's not old.
No, but he brings a lot of class into the team. He pauses the game well. He slows down the game. He's great. So that's a name that we haven't spoke about that I think he might be cut, which is William Carvalho.
Oh, Steph, I'll make it easy for you. Ready? Don't call Sergio Oliveira. Keep him at Porto. Let him rest the whole summer because we have a season to play
next
season.
That's not what Sergio Oliveira wants. That's what you want. But him as a player, play for the national team.
I'd rather have that.
And that's why players actually gain value. It's when they play in the national team.
I agree.
It benefits the clubs.
Yeah.
But I don't think William Carvalho might make it. I mean, he plays for Betis. What the hell is Betis?
But he played well. He plays well there.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, yes, he does.
Estão em sexto ou sétimo, caraca.
But that's only him. I mean, that's a team performance, not an individual performance.
All I'm saying is he might be cut because we have better than him.
We'll see. I mean, it's very early. I
would prefer Danilo Pereira than William Carvalho. I'll put it to you that way. I wouldn't cut Bernardo Silva. I think you guys agree with me. Cristiano Ronaldo is not going to be cut. With Diogo Jota is not going to be cut. João Felix is not going to be cut. Mario Rui could be cut, most likely.
That could be a guy.
Yeah.
But that's a position that we lack also.
Which one?
Left back.
You think so?
You have him and Rafael Guerreiro.
That's it.
But Steph, I mean, Litos, hold on a second. You just talked about two guys that should get cut. Those neither one has justified a starting spot.
Okay, so let me tell you something. You don't think the Nuno Mendes, the up and coming 18 years old from Sporting, is good enough to play in the left wing?
I think that
he hasn't convinced you yet. That's because you're not watching the Sporting games, I guess.
No, but Steph, we're talking about national team play.
Hey,
yeah, but he had something.
The Sporting A squad. He's been playing for the sub-21 A squad, and he shows he's only 18, and he shows finesse, he shows character, he shows that he can play with the big boys. And I think he's better than Mario Rui, and I think he's becoming better than Rafael Guerreiro.
No, I think he's better now. Rafael Guerreiro doesn't play with that
intensity.
That intensity anymore. You're right.
Nuno Mendes is certinho. Take your time to watch him play, just him.
I think that's a position.
That's good.
Litos, I think that's a position that you might see both players that are currently called now might be cut by the start of Euro. Both of them.
I'm not saying this because he plays at Sporting. I'm saying it because he's playing well and he's been very consistent. And Nuno Mendes is a phenomenal player, and I think he would do better than Mario Rui and Rafael Guerreiro.
I don't think there's no other left back right now that could compete. Skeda definitely is not going to go. He might get called to these friendlies here and there.
Joga no Braga, caralho. Como é que pode ir para a seleção nacional?
I'm just saying.
É isso que o pessoal também não enxerga.
Here's another one. João Cancelo. You got right backs. You got João Cancelo. You have Nelson Semedo. You have Ricardo Pereira. Well, I think he's injured though, right, Lito?
Yeah, he's hurt now.
He's hurt.
But he's a left back that might be going.
I think Ricardo Pereira, if he's healthy, he should be playing left back regardless.
Well, have they tried Cancelo or Nelson Smith at left back?
Cancelo playing left back for Man City now.
Well, there you go. That might be a position
because their left back, I forgot who it was, got hurt or some shit, and he's been playing left back.
So you can play both left and right full back.
He's been playing left back on Man City.
So if you're telling me, and there it is, and that's the tricky part about the national coaches, they might cut a position instead of taking two right fullbacks, they only take one because they know the one that plays in left can also play in the right fullback,
right,
and then gain in the midfield or the offensive position.
The key with these little small tournaments like the Euro and the World Cup is versatility. You have to have players, yes, you have to have players that can play multiple positions, because if you can only play one, you're not good enough.
And don't forget, you need durable players. You're also playing every 2 days.
Got it.
Every 3
days.
That's in form.
Like Daniel Pereira, he can play as a number 6 and a center back.
Yeah.
William Carvalho também.
Right.
So, and then Ronaldo could play striker or as a winger.
Yeah.
João Felix também, if need be. Diogo Jota is more of a winger. I don't see him playing anything else.
If you play him in a 2-striker formation, then he could probably play striker.
And then Bernardo Silva can play midfield or winger as well.
Winger, boys. And then you have, we have, there's countless guys that can play multiple positions. So
if you want to fit in Paulinho and André Silva, tem que ser lance assim. Cortas alguém, because Bernardo Silva or Danilo or William Carvalho can play 2 positions.
Who knows? Maybe Paulinho will be the editor of this year.
Who the fuck knows? I hope so. Not this year, next year.
Well, yeah, right. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
All right, guys. It was a great debate. We talked about the national team for about 45 minutes, with all the different scenarios that we should expect. Steph has Portugal beating France 2-1, right?
Yep.
And Litos has them tying, but he didn't give us a final.
1-1.
1-1. I say Portugal 1, França 3, because, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why.
Father,
I have to say it.
That's un ranhoso, meu.
No, I'm not. I look at you look at the last 20 games, we only beat them once. Once.
That's what the odds are better for a tie, bro.
Foi quando contou, caralho. Ganhamos quando contou.
Tá bem. Well, no, there's other times that it counted. Semifinals here, there, and we lost every time.
É nessas alturas que eu digo assim, ainda bem que és portista.
Eu sou portista. Número 1, portista primeiro.
My final note will be the following. Ronaldo won his 100 game.
Yep.
Pela seleção. And he scored another goal, so he's only 7 goals away from the best score of all times for national teams. He's got 102 goals.
And there's no record. I wouldn't bet against Ronaldo not hitting that record.
Oh, he will. He will. Ele nem que joga até aos 40, caralho.
Nah, he'll beat it.
Hey, he'll be next year for sure. Even this year, maybe.
He'll probably beat it in the Cup of Nations.
Yeah.
Well, this tournament.
Yeah. We got France and what's the other game?
Oh, Sweden.
Croatia.
France and
we'll be
semifinals and final.
Next week we'll cover that.
But only one team makes it. So if Litos is right and we tie 1-1, vai ser bola barragem.
Well, hold on. Hold on a second. Is it like the Portuguese league that they have to equal the same score as the first leg?
Shit. Pode ser gol. O gol fora vale 2, né? That's a good question.
So that's the question.
So it's got to be 0-0, Litos.
It has to be at least 0-0. Because if it's 1-1, then France has an advantage.
Because we got more goals.
Bro, if I could decide the score, of course I'd put Portugal winning. You know, if I could.
4-0. 4-0.
Hey, listen, like I said, and the only reason why I picked France is because every time I was hyped out, we're gonna beat France this time. We're gonna beat France this time.
You pick
You
France because you are Portista. That's it.
No, you have to prove it to me. That's it. You got to prove it to me.
I'm gonna call the Federação Portuguesa. I'm gonna tell them you have to put some blue in the Portuguese uniform because you're pissing off Bruno.
No, they don't have to do that. All they have to do is not call Porto players. I'll be happy.
Olha, mesmo que chamassem, vocês vão perder na mesma com a defesa que tem.
Não te preocupes com a nossa defesa, que só conseguiram marcar lá no fim. Não te preocupes.
E no Pintorá tentou-vos ajudar lá com aquele golinho.
Hey, Peter, we didn't even have time to talk about as buscas, but we'll talk about that next week.
As buscas, cuidado, because don't mix everything up. I knew you were going to talk about that. The buscas at Sporting was only to do with an investor. Nothing else, just the investor.
And there's a current administrator that is involved in that.
Just the investor, not Sporting itself. Because if you want to talk about buscas, be careful. Because you know what I'm going to bring up. Anos 80 e anos 90, apito dourado.
Well, Steph, the investor that is currently linked with the case is also linked with the current administrator at Sporting. Just so you know.
No, he's not. Yes,
it is.
Ações no Sporting, and nothing has been proven. But you know what?
Not yet.
I'm not going to be like you. If something is found that Sporting was wrongdoing, then hey, let's be castigados. But I got to tell you what, we haven't won a title in 18 years. So what they're going to do? Tirar o campeonato ping pong? Olha que caralho. You know what I mean? You know who should be afraid? You and the Benfiquistas, because
we haven't done nothing.
Two titles, not us.
We haven't got buscas. There was no buscas at Porto this week.
Oh, foda-se, só tens que fazer o Google a pinturar. Tens lá 44 gravações. Vai para o caralho, meu. Estás com a mesma cantiga, mas o Porto foi mais corrupto que não sei mais o quê. Deve estar calado, homem. Tu escolheste o clube errado.
Pelo menos o meu ganha. Agora o teu, nem por isso.
Ganha a batota, mas ganha. Isto tens razão.
Well, all right, guys. Litos, thank you very much for filling in last second.
Thank you, guys, man. I appreciate the call. Thank you, guys, man. You guys know I have nothing but love for you guys and for what you're doing. And keep up the good work. And I'm glad, man. It's all opinions. You know, we don't get mad at each other. It's all about opinions and fun. That's what it's all about. If we all felt the same way, then there would be no point in discussing soccer, right?
That's right. Yeah. Seth, good talking to you again. We'll be talking next week. We'll be covering the Portuguese national team against Croatia, and then we'll be doing the preview of the Taça de Portugal. That's going to be up and coming, and the Euro games are going to be coming up as well, because I think after the Taça de Portugal game is Champions League / Europa League, correct?
I believe so.
Yep.
So it's going to be you guys are at Rangers, and I think we are at Marseille. We're at Marseille. All right, guys, make sure you stay safe.
And Braga also plays.
Yeah, Braga also plays.
You got to mention them too, because they're up and coming.
Yeah, well, they took a pretty bad beating against Leicester, but
and then our one of our number one fans, it's David Pereira, so we owe him that much.
Well, yeah, of course. He knows that we pay attention to Braga often, so.
Which David Pereira also listens to Three Tugas all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's been on the show, actually.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll be seeing you guys next week. Make sure you stay safe.
Guys, happy holidays if I don't see you, man. Happy Thanksgiving, all right?
Comment to me.
Take care, brothers.
Okay,
ciao.
Bye. Take care, guys.